Hello everybody and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason. Today we're taking a look at a game that was recently played on All That Glitters, version 2.2, and I'll be 100% honest with you, I do not play very much Glitters, so I didn't even realize that there has now been added a geothermal spot over here. Yes, indeed, there's actually a geothermal to fight over on this left-hand side. Makes it interesting, changes a lot more than you think about the way that this match is played, and apparently one of the two of these teams is going to be showcasing a very cheeky strategy to take advantage of that new addition to this well-beloved map. So I'm excited to see exactly what goes down between all of these. Our red team leader spawning in the air position right here goes by the name of MKX8. Spawning as a Cortex commander, going to be going into air here, so I'm expecting whirlwinds and shurikens and all that good stuff. Unlike our blue team leader, spawning as an Armada commander right up on the front lines, goes by the name of Hammer V1, and going to be going into a couple of vehicles. Vehicles make a lot of sense in All That Glitters. I'm not personally a fan of vehicles, just the way that they play and the way that they're not quite as mobile as a lot of the bots tend to be. But certainly they are strong, and especially on flat ground when you have every opportunity to use them. With their advantage of their movement speed to catch up to other units, they can be very, very dangerous. The big challenge that vehicle players face, though, is getting that metal early on. So we do need to see the commander start walking any time now. Yeah, wind speed is so abysmal right now. Hammer trying to get some of these wind turbines up and running to stabilize the energy economy right here. It is a uphill battle, though, to try and get this together. Jawsmunch going to be spawning over here on the right-hand side, another content creator, another YouTuber. Going to be spawning over here on the right-hand side, right next to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar, the purple commander right here, going to be spawning as an Armada commander over here on the right-hand side. Early scout plane sent out over here. This is quite a nice scouting pattern. Okay, so we're going to go, over every base. So we are going to find, well, let's see here. Switching to the perspective now of Taharka, the Seafoam Green commander on the blue team. Gonna find the sniper. Gonna find Don La Mancha, the orange commander over here. Scout remaining largely unnoticed, so it will manage to find another base over here, and I think critically, it'll also find the red commander. Now that's a really good pick, because, or a really good notice right there, a really good scout, because finding the red commander oftentimes can change the way that you play the game. Yeah, you might put a little more aggression on this lane, you might maybe be a little more aggressive, especially knowing now that the red commander is in the air rather than on the fronts. Means, of course, that you have every opportunity to go for a little bit more aggression. Front lines have not been thoroughly scouted here, but we can kind of, by deduction, figure out where the rest of the red team is. So I love that air scout. I think that's wonderfully done right there by Taharka. It's a little detail, a very minuscule detail, but very, very important. Meanwhile, a couple of ticks have run through into the backlines right here. The maroon and brown commander in a little bit of trouble. There is an LLT to guard this base over here, but again, those ticks are so small that they can actually take cover behind friendly, structures most of the time. Not gonna happen this time, and it will manage to pop up those ticks. That was very lucky. That could have been a nightmare to deal with over here. But fortunately for Kriskorian, the brown commander, managed to actually make use of that LLT to blast down all of those ticks and save the day right here. Hammer has run very far forward right now, using that commander to claim mexes along the way. We're using constructors to grab the ones that we didn't get with the commander, and we're setting up a line of defense here as well. Always very good indeed. Best bet is not to leave any exposed metal extractors, at least putting an LLT or something down to guard them, just because you never know if you're going to need to defend them from, say, for instance, a couple of rovers moving across here. Commander taking a very risky flight. Yeah, those fighters were looking to snipe that commander right there. You can see they wanted that transport. Not gonna get it though. Don La Mancha does set the commander down here and manage to start walking forward with that orange commander bot, that orange Cortex commander. Rover still in the backline back here. Oh my goodness, the blue team with the aggression through the roof right now. Using their forces to tremendous effect, blasting down metal extractors left, right, and center, and with no damage done on the blue side. This is essentially a one-sided fight so far. Really, really nicely done. Rover trying its best. Ooh, can he get one more? Oh, just barely doesn't manage to get that metal extractor right there. Rotarose, the tan commander, manages to blast down that rover, sparing that metal extractor for just a little bit longer. Of course, every metal extractor counts. Each and every one of them worth quite a lot. Easy to underestimate the impact that a single metal extractor can have, a little bit of a voice crack there, can have over a long extended period of time, but certainly producing, say, for instance, 1.8 metal per second every single second the game goes on does give you quite an advantage. Several hundred metal worth of advantage, and that adds up quick. The container and Levis, yeah, Levis, the 13th apparently, the green commander and the green commander pushing together right here against Kreskorian, who's got to be feeling a little uncomfortable right now. Yeah, we've got a lot of pressure mounting right here. A lot of units slowly building up, a lot of forces. T-Baga also building over here on the left-hand side. This is a lot of ground that the blue team has taken, and it really feels like the red team has not contested it hardly at all. Glad to see that the orange commander has moved forward, deciding to put a whole bunch of production on the front lines here. We're going to go for a forward vehicle bay instead of a backline bot lab here. Not going to be the end of the world, of course, but if that does go down, it does mean that you're without production for a good long while of distance into the backline here. The sniper, our yellow team leader, our yellow commander on the red team, going to be trying to make some of those maces and put them up on the front line. Ooh, nice Janus connections right there, though. Blasting apart some of those maces very efficiently and shutting down that commander really, really nicely as well. An excellent little engagement right there from those Janus. So easy for those to go awry. You miss all your missiles, or they all fire at a single tick or something like that, and suddenly you've wasted a lot of potential damage. Not going to be the case here, though. Commander sacrifice up on the northern side. We do have the geothermal taken over here on the side on the right-hand side here for the blue team. Mirrored diagonally, of course, so brown player or the red team could take that geothermal, and eventually it looks like they will try to, but haven't quite yet. But this is really cheeky. All right, 6-minute T2 transition. Usually you wouldn't be able to do this so quickly because, of course, you don't have the energy infrastructure, but with a geothermal, it's actually enough energy per second to start producing some of those T2 units. Gonna go into a T2 converter, or T2 constructor rather, to try and build those T2 metal extractors. This is a really, really nice rushed out T2 over here on the right-hand side. The pressure from the sniper has not been big enough to shut down this aggression, and with the amount of vehicles that have just been spammed out right here by Jawsmunch, this is wonderful. Yeah, it's going to be really painful to push into all those Janus right there, so even if they don't manage to get a whole lot of value dealing damage to the enemy units, they're definitely a threat that if you step too far forward, you're going to lose everything in a single volley. One micro tip for the Janus would, of course, be to turn them off of fire at will, move them forward, and then manually fire them in a big attack, right-click, and drag spread fire sort of situation. Means that they can disperse their damage using that AoE a little bit more evenly, rather than, for instance, overkilling a single unit a whole lot like you've seen just there. It's a little thing, but it can help sometimes. Split firing, obviously not easy, but that's one way to do it a little bit better. Any of these engagements are fine, though, because, of course, these Janus don't hardly leave behind a wreck. It means that there's not a whole lot to reclaim right here for the sniper. Going to be very, very efficient. Meanwhile, Cyan Green setting up a gauntlet over here. This is not a very killer position. Yeah, if it was a little far forward, maybe over here, it could fire over into this cavern. It could fire forward into Halanga. If it could fire in any of these directions, I think it'd be worth it. But right here, it doesn't really have very many effective fields of fire. Yeah, I mean, I guess it can go into hierarch mode. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Hierarch mode and fire over this direction. I guess I don't hate that. But it does feel like it's in a little bit of a strange position here. Then again, I guess the mountain does provide a little bit of cover for it, which is another thing to consider. And I guess that hierarch mode is pretty powerful. Yeah, there you go. You can see the impulse of it, certainly shaking the forces right here from Kreskorian, who hasn't quite realized why his units are suddenly injured so badly. There we go. Finally detects that there's some sort of artillery impulse landing on top of him and decides to shake things up. There goes the constructor. Building some more of those metal extractors over here on the right-hand side, and I have a feeling this is exactly the geothermal cheese that we were expecting to see this game. It's nothing too complicated, and it's nothing we've never seen before. Certainly this was the strategy, and it still is the prevailing strategy on Supreme Isthmus. It's just that now we see it on a slightly different caliber and in a slightly different way on the right-hand side over here. Some rocket spiders have been sent out from the purple commander. Nebuchadnezzar sending them forward right now, using them to tremendous effect to start blasting down some of the forces over here for the sniper. Really, really effectively done. Those rocket spiders, they can be finicky. They can sometimes connect where you want them to, and sometimes they'll fire 100 rockets and hit nothing with them. Sort of hit or miss, but when they hit, they do a load of damage. Requires constant micro as well. There you go. They may not hit every rocket, but every one that they do hit with does quite a lot of damage. Quite a lot of work right here, taking down this T1. And just like that, the forces here for the yellow and orange commander are pretty well dwindled. Not bad whatsoever. Now we do have the standard T2 transition coming up in the backline here. This is one thing that's nice about going for this T2 over on the right-hand side, is you can afford to skip the tech of all the right hand, or all the right hand people as well. You can just kind of send a T2 back to some of these people. You basically split the burden of technologically upgrading every single person on your team. Usually if you have a dedicated techer, they're going to go ahead and just hand out as many of those units as they possibly can. Essentially the payment for holding the front line is you hand everybody T2 constructors, get their mexes upgraded so they can continue to pump out units. But it seems like we don't really need it. We've already broken the line, and with these, with the recluses marching forward, the rockets are more than enough power to deal with medium tanks on the front lines here. Commanders are cloaked, hoping to get a nasty D-gun on some of these rocket spiders. Always risky, though. Yeah, there's a little bit of AoE on those rockets, and it means that any commander that they're firing at, even if they don't hit it directly, they're still going to do a decent amount of damage. Medium tanks finding the commander, and down goes the orange commander. Beautifully, beautifully done. Rocket spiders for the win right here. Get some cinematic shots of these rocket spiders firing away their rocket projectiles. They are quite beautiful, aren't they? The mighty recluse with the resbots here to clean everything up as well. Sealing the deal right here for the blue team is the purple commander and the blue commander working in tandem to continue annihilating all these bases. Forward production lab does fall with the commander going down as well. That lab signified the last hope for the orange commander. We do have a T2 transition slowly up and coming with the T2 metal extractors, but it's not quite there yet. We're going to start spamming out grunts right here. I don't hate it, but it's certainly going to be pretty late before we can manage to mount any sort of reasonable defense. T2 lab is up and running right now. And the question I think on everybody's mind is, how do you go about countering this? Well, one thing is, instead of going for, say, a fusion reactor, all this stuff in the back, you just start pumping out units. Things like sprinters, things like welders, things like sharpshooters, even hounds. Going to be decent against the rocket spiders. The rocket spiders are a precision tool. They're meant to essentially fire away and then retreat. If you manage to actually get anything to fire at them, then you can pretty much always find some kind of value here. And I think that's what we're going to have to see. I think this calls for a complete revision of the strategies that we normally see on all the glitters. Definitely changes the way that this map is going to have to be played, because that geothermal opens up so many more T2 options. Indeed, sealing the deal right here for the blue team are those rocket spiders on the right-hand side, pumped out by that very rapid T2 transition, and eventually doing too much damage for the red team to recover from. I'm pretty excited to see what this does to the overall meta of the game, but certainly an exciting look at exactly what the new strategies can do when they go up against the old ones. Thanks a ton for watching. I know this was a bit of a quick one, but I do appreciate you making it all the way to the end regardless. Sure hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope you enjoyed the match, and I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.